G'day and welcome to another episode of Kiwi Car Life. And very fortunately here on Kiwi Car Life, I've had the pleasure of driving just about every single M car. The E36 race car, I owned an E46, my friend's got an E92, I've done the F10 M5 and more recently the E39 M5. While all slightly different, all have been absolutely sensational cars. But this one was the first of the turbocharged M3s, and it's a bit of a controversial car. A lot of people don't like the sound, a lot of people don't really like the looks and the perhaps slightly more numb sensation when driving it. But today we're going to see if that is really the case. This was the very first turbocharged M3. The E36 and E46 used 3 litre or 3.2 litre naturally aspirated straight sixes screaming to 8,000 RPM. The E92 that came afterwards was one of my favourites as it came with a super high revving and very highly strung 4 litre V8. But in the interests of fuel economy and emissions, BMW switched back to a turbocharged inline 6. It's known as the S55 B30, based on the N55 engine, but this one has 2 turbos rather than 1 and is a lot more highly strung. The 2 turbochargers help to deliver 317 kilowatt or 420 horsepower and 550 newton meters of torque. So not all that much more power than the previous V8 one, only about 10 kilowatt, but a lot more torque, 150 newton meters more. So you can see why BMW switched to this engine. Transmission options on the F80 M3 was either a 7-speed MDCT transmission or a 6-speed manual, which this car is thankfully offered with. Because the boost builds extremely quickly in this engine, because the turbochargers aren't exactly very big, but they make a lot of boost, the S55 is kind of known to be a little bit spiky in its power delivery, not helped by the dual clutch transmission, because of course, you know, you put your foot down in the wet, upshift, and then bang, suddenly the wheels are spinning and the car's stepping out. But with a manual transmission, as you'll see a bit later on, I think it kind of tames the S55 a little bit and just makes it a really potent, pretty decent sounding and generally just phenomenal engine. A lot of people don't particularly like this era BMW because they feel the quality sort of took a bit of a dive, and look, I'd have to agree. Certain plastics are not quite what you would expect for a car that costs the best part of $60,000 used. However, the good news from my perspective is I think everything looks very nice. I love the grey gauges with all the little dainty numbers and crisp display at the bottom. The steering wheel with its big chunky 10 and 2 grips and nice thin spokes looks phenomenally good. And you've got BMW's iDrive, in my opinion, the best and easiest to use infotainment system to come out of the early 2010s. And then what I also love about this interior is that it's got all the features. It's got cruise control, radio adjustments on the steering wheel, dual zone climate control with heated seats, electric seats, Bluetooth, reversing camera, drive modes where you can adjust the engine, suspension and steering feel. It's got it all, and yet somehow doesn't feel cluttered. While certain plastics don't feel the best, the transmission's a bit rubbery and the back seats are kind of useless, at least it still feels like a true driver's car in here. Driving the F80 M3. Oh, I tell you, it is very interesting to be driving one of these, but with a manual transmission. Just about every video I've seen on one of these naturally has a dual clutch, so you're used to hearing this S55 kind of unique, strange, 3-cylinder-y sound, but with snappy upshifts, whereas of course with this, it's a manual. Man, BMW does manual sports sedans so unbelievably well. The engine builds boost immediately, which I like because I've generally been more of a fan of naturally aspirated engines. So having one where you put your foot down, bang, within literally half a second you've got full boost, and you can kind of drive it like an NA engine just with more torque, because foot down, bang, there's the power. There's no waiting around for the power to turn up. It's just right there when you want it. So the engine, while the sound is perhaps a little bit controversial, especially from outside, because of its kind of unusual exhaust setup, it sounds a bit like 2 3-cylinders having an angry fight up there. Inside, even though a lot of the sound is probably fake, to be honest, I'm not complaining. This thing sounds pretty good, I reckon. Oh, and it pulls right to 7,500. Honestly, it gives me like E46 M3 vibes, just with turbo power. Oh, Oh yeah, that's 320 kilowatt, man. That's fantastic. I must admit the gearbox on this one doesn't feel particularly amazing. It's very rubbery and it doesn't really want to sort of spring back to center again. So it's far from the nicest manual gearbox I've used, but everything else is just lovely. With everything in the sportiest setting, the steering feel I think is pretty good. It's electric power steering, so you know, maybe it's not objectively as good as some of the older ones, but I get in this and I'm like, oh yeah, I know what the front end's doing. I can push it down a road like this. And the key thing for me is that I've driven a few cars in greasy conditions like this where you put your foot down, the limited slip diff bites, but you're reacting to it when you're already pointing towards the bank. Whereas this, I kind of was playing around with it a bit before, you get in it, and having never driven one of these in my life, I'm already like, oh yep, I know what it's gonna do. I can feel how the car is gonna respond. And if it does decide to step out, which honestly I'm finding that it's not really doing in a hurry, foot down out of here, oh, that's really fast. If it's gonna step out, you feel it coming, you anticipate it before it actually happens, and then in turn you can counter steer. And so anytime it does step out, it's smooth, it's predictable, and yeah, it's really quick. But because it's with a manual, you're just kind of staying in whatever gear you choose. Whereas, you know, if you're in a dual clutch and you did a real snap change up into third there, I wouldn't be surprised if it would start lighting up the back end and be like, whoa, whoa, you know. Honestly, I think one of these with a manual is actually a really sensational drive, and man, it's quick, eh? Oh, right to 7,500 RPM. The F80 M3 in my mind is probably objectively the worst. I mean, it's the only one that I've driven that was a full-blown race car, so on the track it was incredible. Oh yeah, there we go. But, you know, least powerful, definitely the worst interior, the oldest. It is pretty reliable, but in my mind, the E46 is the same recipe, but it looks better, has a much nicer interior. The E92 feels the most special because of that incredible V8 engine. And then I drove an M2 recently, and if I'm honest, I didn't love it, eh? I just found it to be really leery and twitchy, and I couldn't really tell what it was doing. Whereas this, you know, foot down, back end steps out, it's fine. I think just because it's a bit longer wheelbase and it's a manual gearbox rather than a dual clutch, so it's not doing anything funny on upshift, you know, you're fully in control. It just feels a little bit more tame than I was expecting, in a good way. You know, I want something that I can just be a bit ham-fisted, just put my foot down out of a corner and just enjoy it, you know, not worrying about it. Ooh, what's it gonna do here? I expected this thing to be a bit of a leery beast, but if I'm honest, with a manual, I think it's fantastic. Like, honestly, apart from the sort of slightly strange whirry sound and the not incredible feeling, quite rubbery, slightly vague gearbox in pretty much every regard, oh, I just can't fault this. It's a proper M car, man. BMW has made a sensational machine in the way of the F80 M3. And given these are starting to come down into the 40 grand range, I would own one of these in a heartbeat, man. Oh, this is good. This is a masterpiece of a car.